And I'm Jamie from King Voodoo.
And you're watching the Paranormal Brew.
They're the King Voodoo guys.
King Voodoo.
Yeah.
They're so awesome. Like I just made. All right, so I just broke the news to my. I don't even know. You're like my spirit animal, James.
Oh.
That I'm not coming to Hoover this weekend because it is Sabrina's 50th, and she's having a party, so I have to go to Sabrina's 50th. But Friday the 1st, you guys will be at Hoover.
Yes, we will. Friday. Yeah. Yeah, we'll be there. And then we'll be there Saturday, which is our event.
Oh, Friday is not the event.
Nope, Saturday is the event. Friday is just going to be.
It was almost like pre-event on Friday,
Yeah.
so when we get organized and settled in.
We'll have a little intimate investigation probably there with a few people. That's it.
So yeah, I didn't know that. I thought it was all weekend because Friday is Paranormal Brew's 5-year anniversary.
Oh yeah.
So you should still come for Friday.
5 years.
I did see that. Yeah, 5 years. Wow, that's how old James's son is.
Yep.
5 years old.
5.
Yep.
So, having like this.
And he was made off some good brew too.
Made up some good stuff, yeah.
Hi, Zhang from Indonesia. Hello.
Yeah, that's hello, Zhang.
Hi, Eric. So anyways, I'm having a podcast party Friday night at 9:00. Pam is I'm gonna send her the link, and she's just gonna like pop on, and since all you guys are there, I said just get James and Carl and Wes and you and Steve, and just kind of like, she's like, yeah, I'll get us all together and we'll just jump on and we'll all be there.
Perfect. Yeah.
You know, that's why I didn't send you guys. I didn't ask you guys personally because I knew you were coming on, and then I know I already talked to Pam, and Pam said she would, use the link to go live, and everybody's already there because I contacted everybody that's been on the show and asked them if they would come on for like 5 to 10 minutes just to say hey. Because I mean, you guys obviously have been a huge part. I mean, you've been on here, what, 6, 7 times?
More than
Maybe
that.
more, probably
Yeah.
more, way more.
It's like a year, almost year and a half. I think we've been on the show since we've doing Daemonolgie has been concepted since 2019.
It was kind of like in tandem, yeah.
Yeah. It's been almost.
You were our immaculate conception, Aaron. Yeah. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. Did we see Taryn and say, "Hey, we got to start duo Daemonolgie"? Or were you already duo? And we said, "Hey, we got to be with Taryn."
I think Taryn reached out, and
Taryn reached out.
Yeah, and she said, "I want duo." And I said, "You can have all of us."
I want uno and duo. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Hi, Pat.
And Sam,
so Friday will be fun.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? Had I known that you guys weren't doing the event Friday, I probably could have came to the Hoover House and did it.
Yeah, you could have. You should have. You still can.
But it's too late, baby. Now it's too late. We really did try to get you. Something inside won't jive, and I can't hide, and we just can't take you.
What are we talking about? Well,
yeah, singing. We're gonna sing all day.
So, hi, Leia. I hope I'm saying that right. We talk about whatever comes up, to be honest with you, but I do want James to share with everybody about Carl. How come you're not going on this big, huge trip?
Which big, huge trip is
what do you think? The one that you don't want to spend money?
Oh, that one. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of way out there. I get afraid. I don't know. It's scheduling and finances combined. I know James has been going way out of his way to, help me be able to do that, but it's kind of doubtful that I will. I've incurred some expenses too. Not to mention my neck is falling to pieces, but actually, I have an ongoing issue with my neck, and it's been quite severe, especially the past month. But today, this day, for the first time, the chiropractor I've been seeing actually made some advances. Actually, it's a painful treatment, but I think she helped me today. It is. I notice improvement. That's something. It shows it can get a little better, at least for a while.
So there's this stuff you can buy. I don't know if they have it where you're at, but it's called red oil. It is like a natural remedy thing, but it literally helps with pain. Like you just rub it on like you would Bengay or whatever, but it's called red oil and it comes in this like little tiny bottle.
Okay.
And you put it on like a rag or something and you just rub it on wherever you're feeling sore or pain. And it helps. I can get bad back pain and I use it and it's like I took like 12 Advil.
Now I believe it because James let me try a sample of he has some roll-on that has peppermint and ointment oil in it, and it really worked. It did temporarily, and it wasn't a miracle, but it was a miracle in the fact that it soothed me at all with something. So red oil, huh?
Red oil it's called.
Internet search for that, see if I can acquire some.
So really quick, Hoover House is in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. It's 35 minutes from Gettysburg.
35 minutes, yep.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful place. There is a question. Have y'all ever done a paranormal investigation of Yazoo Witch?
No, not yet.
I've never heard of that. Have you heard of it?
It sounds familiar, rings a bell, but I really can't tell you.
I can't think off the top of my head now.
I might have mentioned it at one point. Can we hear about it?
Sounds witchful.
Yeah. We've heard of Zozo, but we haven't heard of Yahoo Witch.
So, James, actually,
Yes.
You know what? Just recap Daemonolgie, just really quick. You don't have. I know you guys probably get sick of.
Well, as I'll be talking about the next thing, Carl, what is
Let me
Daemonolgie?
talk about the next thing. Okay. Daemonolgie is, as it sounds, it's a unit of two, and we are a research unit, and it's James thought up the enterprise. And what it is, we have a mission. We're two demonologists with a mission. We're not just, hey, let's wait till somebody calls us. Let's talk about spooky things. No, it's we actually have a mission to bring demonology into the 21st century. Demonology, of course, just the name itself is archaic. It's shrouded in mystery, of course, and the cobwebs of the Middle Ages. And we want to take that basic concept, because demonology was scientific in the 15 and 1600s to the best of their science. That was what they had to work with, supposition and superstition. So, and a lot of mental illness and maladies were, thought to be demon possession. That was their science. Now we're trying to bring that 4 centuries ahead and bring it into the 21st century and establish it as a legitimate pursuit. And we have a special definition of demonology applied to us. Demonology is the systemized study of the lore and cultural traditions of wicked spirits. So we're still kind of fumbling in the dark on the way, but we employ, our modus is analytic psychology as well as parapsychology, because these maladies with demonology, like possession, oppression, all that, those are things of the human mind, the human psyche. That's what they affect. And I think that's what is largely the origin. So that we're just trying to make it something that people can rely on. We still have the, kind of wacky terminology, like we're demonologists. Of course, that's going to sound a little formidable to some people. And we say we're the demonologists. We'll always get a table at the restaurant because people clear out and nobody wants to sit with us. But you get
go in, with the your stuff on. So bad. I'm so bad. What is it called? What's the black with the white
clerical collar, the Roman collar?
Clerics?
Yes.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Go in with that, with the crosses, and maybe put like a little bit of ketchup here or something like that to make it look like you guys just been through some shit.
Well, yeah, that's also the lure of demonology. People see that it's exciting, it's scary, it's glamorous, and there's a thrill a minute where it's not really like that. It's like a lot of pursuits, glamorized. It's most of it's research and listening to audio recordings and interviewing people. But it is shrouded in its own mystique, of course. And there are moments, of course. If we encapsulated all our dramatic moments, you'd say, yeah, wow. Oh, how do you guys do it? But It's not. Those are just the outstanding moments. We want to legitimize this. It'll always have that stigma and that allure at the same time. As long as we call it demonology, we call it something else, nobody's going to pay attention to it anyway.
Which I attempted to change that many, many years ago, and everybody just laughed at me.
Yeah, they do that. Yeah. Well, we're also cathanicists. We study underworld spirits, the classical gods, and underworld demons and devils, but no few people associate any significance with that term, cathanicist. But we're students of the arcane and the unusual, the forbidden, if you will, because demonology has an aura of being forbidden. Don't go there. You're messing with wicked spirits. Why would you even do that? To find out what their reality is. How real are they? What relevance do they have? And I think demonology is relevant in our time. As long as people are dealing with issues of the mind, maladies of the human mind, it's worth looking into, because not everything can be explained by modern psychology. I mean, what are they going to think of our psychoanalysis like 100 years from now? Like, oh, those primitives. Yeah, we make advances. We work with something. We need some foothold.
So you think that most of the cases that come your way are more psychological? Like, you think the psychological part of it brings in a negative entity, or you just think it's psychological and there's no unexplained entity involved?
Well, without super qualifying it, I'll say yes and yes. When I say supernatural, well, supernatural to me means impossible, but there are things we cannot yet understand and fathom. But I think it is all psychologically based. And by that, I don't mean it's delusional. When I say that, I have to qualify that statement, because I don't mean it's all just imaginary. No, these things are produced, they are created, and they draw from outside sources. But traditionally, when someone has a demon invade their house or their space, they have to have invited that demon. Like a vampire, you have to extend an invitation. But that invitation can come in diverse ways. But yeah, we're very grounded in the psychological aspect.
Wait a second, you can invite vampires?
Well, I was using that as an analogy, but that's the tradition of vampires. Yeah,
Vampires are fun. They have a fun life.
Get into it. They have their lore, to be sure. For a vampire to enter a household, it has to be invited.
I never heard that is like a legit thing.
It's part of the legend, yeah.
Yeah, there always has to be some kind of invitation.
Well, even if you watch, what's it called?
Dark Shadows, for one thing.
Well, Dark Shadows. If you watch any vampire, I believe what's the most recent one?
There's so many.
What was there? It was just a remake on, but it was turned into a television show. It used to be a movie, but it was a television show. It became a television show. Oh gosh,
I can almost remember.
Twilight?
No,
not those.
But even in Twilight, they have to be invited in. But even another one, Vampire Diaries, right?
Yeah,
that's a big one of the recent times. Even like Stefan and Damon have to be invited in. And then, of course, True Blood, which is another great show. Bill has to be invited in. Eric has to be invited in. So it's part of the mystique, the legend of vampirism.
And Dan Curtis, the creator of the Gothic soap opera Dark Shadows, he did his research. I'm sure he read Dracula because Barnabas Collins, the titular vampire of Dark Shadows, he would always stand there. Well, he was very old worldly, but he would stand at the threshold of the door of Collinwood or wherever he entered. He would always say, he would pause there and say, "May I come in?" Even though it was assumed he could enter, he would always say, "May I come in?" I think that was a nod to that vampire lore, that the vampire has to be invited, as a demon has to be invited in.
See, I would probably totally be screwed, because like the devil would know, like if he looked like the show Lucifer, and he was like knocking on my door, I would open my door right up and I'd be like, "Oh my God, come on in."
Oh, I have to. What
can I help you?
Conversation,
How can I help you?
Yeah, well, evil can come in pretty packages.
Yes.
Exactly.
They say.
Well, that's what they say. The devil tempts you when you're at your greatest, right? And that's what remember this Will Smith thing recently with Denzel Washington giving him that advice. Hey, that was what Denzel said to him, but it's true. When you're at the greatest moments of your life, that's when you would be affected the most as well, because you're at your high. There's always that plateau, and then there's that drop after the climax.
Yeah, and then we read about Bruce Lee, Dragon. You know, the Bruce Lee story. Yeah, it was loosely based on fact, but Sifu, his teacher, Bruce Lee teaches. And Bruce Lee in that is pursued by a demon all his life, and the demon is kind of allegorical. But Sifu tells him, and Sifu says, when you are at your most powerful, that's when the demon will come for you.
Yes.
Now that's weird because wasn't it? I feel like it was always the opposite.
No, not always.
When you're at your weakest and you're.
Well, I find that true. The demon seems to come when I'm at my lowest points.
Yeah,
and all that. But yeah, I think when somebody has the pinnacle of achieving their goal in life, that's when the demon can come. That's I don't know. That's a nice kind of sounding superstition. I don't know if it's true. Yeah,
but to be honest, well, yeah, but
if you believe in a superstition, it becomes more real.
To be honest, though, like we both, Carl and I, both seen where people have been affected either at their highest or lows, or we've read about it, and our acquaintances have dealt with similar people. Most of the time, it's when they're at the lowest point, but there have been times where people have been at the highest point and have been affected.
But do you think that that's one of them things where it's like, if you give me, okay, for lack of better description, I'm just going to Hollywood it up really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your soul. I'll give you all this. You're going to be successful. You know what I mean? Like, do you think that's why those cases happen?
Sometimes I think it's the allurement of it. Like if you're down a low, but you want fame and fortune, and something comes to you and says, "Come here, I can give you all that." Some people are gullible enough to take that kind of bait and to maybe be taken over. But like Carl says, a lot of it's the psychological aspect of it. Like they have trauma, and that trauma is what either creates the construct, or if in fact, if there is something that exists an external force, that's when it'll come in as well. But Carl and I these are hypotheses. It's this hypothetical, and we don't really truly know. Nobody knows what a ghost is, nor what a demon is, but we have these characteristics and these pieces of literature that have been passed down.
Which we need just to identify these.
Of course.
Forces.
Yeah.
But, we also, like Carl said, we look at it in the 21st century outlook, where we have had advancements in science and medicine, and we attempt to use that and utilize it in this form. We're not demonologists of, like you said, the 15th and 16th century of when people are possessed, burning them at the stake or stoning them or pressing them like they used to do, or put them in dungeons. We are far from that, and that's what early demonologists
Well, I
did.
like to think in this culture we are, not in all places of the world.
Yeah, well, there's some countries or some
human
cultures,
nature is pretty consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah, we think we're away from that. Yeah, but that's
go ahead.
Nick, go ahead.
Because we love to talk about these things.
No. I know, like, this is interesting to me because I always just thought that it was always when, the negative, you know what I mean? Like, I just never thought of it when you're at your highest, like how.
Well, yeah. Well, that's that one thing in that movie I cited. I like it because it's an entertainment. It's not really accurate as to, true to life, the Bruce Lee story. But I always like that thing, how the undercurrent of that movie is that a demon is pursuing Bruce Lee throughout his life. And you can see that because of his immense successes and reversals.
Yeah.
Yip Man was his teacher. Sifu means teacher, and they only refer to his teacher as Sifu, and they don't call him Yip Man. But and he's older when Bruce comes to see him after the death of Bruce Lee's father, and he's in China. And Sifu is like walking with a limp. He's older than, and he goes, and he says, "The demon wants you." He says, "When you are at your absolute strongest," and he goes like with his kind of arthritic hand, he says, "That's when the demon will come for you." And boy, that line stood out in that movie.
And it has it's earnest too, because you think about it, right? if you have an enemy, yes, they might kick you when you're down and low, but a lot of times people that are jealous of you when you're at the highest platform is when they target you. You can see this with celebrities, people in the NFL, baseball, Deshaun Watson's a perfect example. Did he really truly have all those scenarios that happened to him where he touched the woman inappropriately, or was it because he's rich and famous and people know him and now
They can get money.
They can get money out of it. So he's at his top game. He's one of the greatest NFL quarterbacks in the league, and people have seen an entryway. And another thing, of course, that just occurred. And I'm not shaming anybody. I'm not picking sides. But look at another paranormal investigator in this field, Stormy Daniels, and her losing her case to Donald Trump for $300,000. You know, so that these are prime examples of when people are at their top, when they try to come get you. And a predator will know this of its prey, because you think if demons truly exist in a non-corporeal sense that we think they do or other people do, what is going to be more cynical for them? To get to the person that they can already intercept and the weakest, or the person that's the highest and have the highest faith and able to twist and turn them and construe them into what they want? I think that they would want that more than anything, because that shows, regardless of how strong you are, they can affect you.
They're stronger.
You know, I give a quote of some noted personage said something about that. It comes to mind. George Smith Patton became famous as the World War II general.
Yep.
Yes.
One quote he says, in order to achieve something, you have to be single-minded, focus on only that. He says, and if you look as though it looks as though you might be getting there, all sorts of people, including some of whom you thought were your loyal friends, will show up doing their GDest to undermine you, break your spirit, and trip you up.
You know, it's funny that we're talking about this because I'm actually going through that. So that's great. So that's awesome.
Remember General Patton, you know? I know where he was coming from when he said that. You have to be single-minded and focused and anticipate the obstacles from unexpected sources.
So Tim said, because someone comes after you while you're on top does not mean you didn't do something to earn being called out.
Sometimes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're vulnerable because if you're in the public eye, even if it's like in a closed circle, yeah, you're going to have to answer for, past indiscretions, or even if you didn't commit them. And if you did, you're just going to be ready for that. And I think the best approach is to say, yeah, I messed up back then. I was wrong. If you were.
Repent.
Yeah. Oh, you think about it too. And
that should be my middle name. That should be my christening name or my baptismal name. Repent.
But talking about repent and, even in some like myself with my background, like I quote this, or I use this one individual so many times because I can drudge people with it. Like, look at a Catholic saint who was saint.
I think I know who you mean.
That entered the sainthood because of his miracles, and that's a man, Padre Pio. There's actually, I don't know if it came out yet, but there's a movie coming out on him that Shia LaBeouf plays Padre Pio, which is perfect because Padre Pio was a little nuts, I think. But no, I'm just kidding, guys. Please, he was a good guy. Shia LaBeouf's a nut, but I think he dug too many holes. It was a joke. But Padre Pio was actually one of the reasons he was canonized as a saint was because he was oppressed on a daily basis by this demonic force or many demonic forces, where he eventually came to know their names as like a buddy, not like a buddy, but you know what I'm saying? It tormented him, or attempted to torment him so much to sway him away from his faith, where he didn't. He kept the agape, which is the true love of God, within his heart, and he stayed on his path until his death. And that's somebody like who has a direct connection to God, as a person of faith, and of course a clergyman, where he wasn't able to allow that oppression to become possession because he never allowed the demonic entity invitation to take him over. He never said, I give up, or swayed away from his belief in God. And that's a perfect man that I always lean towards on when people talk about this, because yes, he was a clergyman, but he was still oppressed. Father Malachi Martin is another individual people talk about. He was tormented at times, and he never swayed either. He died. Of course, they say he died of a demonic assault, but probably more so old age and falling off his stool, which probably killed him. Of course, not no demon, but
well, people speculated about it. But he was standing on some.
What do you have you? All right, so really quick, just so there, because there's a lot of people watching, but how many legit exorcisms have you guys had to do?
Well, when you say exorcisms, you mean like the formal rite of exorcism, and we have not performed the rite of exorcism.
Everybody knows it's not every place you go to, like Zach Baggins says it.
But we're also not exorcists either, so we would never perform the solemn rite of exorcism.
Well, Zach Baggins is an exception because he's possessed once a week, so he really needs more exorcism. But no, I'm just kidding. I like Zach.
But Carl agreed, because we are demonologists and we study that. That doesn't mean we're exorcists. And I like to tell people is that a demonologist is not an exorcist, but an exorcist is a demonologist, and that's the best way to put it.
Wait, say that again.
Well, a demonologist is not necessarily an exorcist, but every exorcist is a demonologist. It just goes with the territory.
Okay, I gotcha.
Now, if you talk about driving out spirit expulsion, sometimes done extemporaneously, yes, both of us have been involved in that.
Or have performed them.
And I've had to.
Where it wasn't full blown,
Yes, sometimes. Yes, sometimes it was. Several times it was full blown.
But it's an emergency.
Akin to an exorcism, but driving out the spirit because somebody had to take the reins and stand forth. Even though I didn't totally know what I was doing, I had to act at the time, and then that confidence becomes real as I was performing it.
Now. You probably answered this, but I'm gonna piggyback Darren's question, because I'm curious to know is the way that you guys do your thing now. Do you think that's not? I don't want to say do you think it's better, because we can't really say how I do something and how somebody else does something is whatever. But do you prefer the way that you guys are doing your research and handling your clients now as opposed to that? And then Darren's question here.
Darren's question I'm reading,
Yeah, I want to answer Darren's question first because
real nice, because I'm not coming to Hoover House this weekend. I see how you are.
No, it's a simple answer compared to, it's a simple answer compared to where we have advanced in our ideology. But exorcisms have changed in the past 20 years. There was a pre-1999 version of the solemn rite of exorcism and a post-1999 version of exorcisms. A lot of people are exorcists that still perform exorcisms to this day prefer the pre-1999 version, because the pre-1999 version isn't sweet and innocent. It's direct, creates statements, there's religious provocation, and many exorcist priests feel that it is what is necessary to drive out the devil. It's unyielding. While the post-1999 version is basically rainbows and cupcakes, where you don't speak to the spirit. It's yielding. There's no religious provocation, and your attempt is to draw out the spirit, and perform mass. And there is no talking to the demonic entity by the religious. It's one way, while yes, the post 1999 pre-1999 version was one way, but there was a lot more to the sandwich, or to the meat, to the potatoes, than what it is now. It's and that's why a lot of religious, especially exorcist priests, do not use the post 1999 version.
And there's more of an emphasis nowadays on the psychological evaluation, as there should be. That can only go when you're dealing with exorcisms and all that. This psychologist approach can only go so far, but they do meter the exorcism with psychological evaluation preceding it.
Yeah, and they have medical staff during exorcisms too.
Which is an improvement, of course.
But they had that they do that even with the old solemn rite. But of course, having the medical staff is more. I would say more than 20 years, but still, yeah, they have, like you said, they have a more emphasis on having medical staff and psychological evaluations, physician visit before these things occur.
I hope we can segue into Alita Roman's question, if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of putting it up. Well, Rich also asked why the change.
Why the change?
Ideological differences. As the church has adapted to the political system and, of course, the individualism. There, as you can tell, even a lot of people don't understand the Catholic Church now believes in microevolution, where they maybe never believed in evolution. They're a little bit more open to homosexuality. There's certain things that they're more open to. But the one thing they are more also open to, like Carl segued into, is that psychologically they're more more psychologically involved than they were before. Like some of the leading exorcists today are PhDs in psychology. Father Chad Ripperger is a PhD, he's a doctor in psychology, which is a respectable thing. So the post-1999 version could influence somebody's mind. So even if they might have been truly dealing with an external force, what will happen is there could be psychological ramifications with this, maybe post-traumatic stress disorder, even beyond, because of the words that they're saying and the taunting they're kind of doing, while the post-1999 version is softer with words. It handles the person's psyche a little bit differently, and it doesn't, like I said, doesn't have taunting involved, which is because of how the church is nowadays. They've of course become more liberal, more than they have ever been. So, that has a lot.
Which is weird. Like, don't you think that because a lot of the things that I mean, I don't even how many years has it been where they've been against that kind of stuff? You know what I mean? So
long time, but they've also lost followers because of their mindset too. And when you start losing followers, you have to start changing your ways. You have to start changing your catechisms, and that's a big thing. The Christian denomination is 2.2 billion followers, and I think out of the 2.2 billion followers, Catholicism is almost like at 1 billion. So that's a lot of people. But when you start dwindling in numbers, you got to start changing your ways. And we see that in the political nature. We see that in so many different things: work environments, equal opportunity, women rights, equal rights for people. We've seen this through an adaptation through the humanities. So, and the same thing is, if the church is going to survive in the modern day, they have to adapt to what people believe in and how people carry themselves.
right.
Yeah, in fact, I want to use some of my 4-star words here. There's a prevalent paradigm and a dichotomy, ubiquitous dichotomy, that there's the spiritual and the psychological approach. They're diametrically opposed, and I don't think you can perfectly blend them. I mean, there's a certain point where it stops being the psychodrama and it becomes an act of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll always be that division, I think, that dichotomy where, some people are trying to look at it as a thing of the mind. No, it's a thing of God, and it's a thing of faith and spirit. We passed over a few good questions.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to. So Alita says, is exorcist solely part of the specific religion?
That's both yes and no, because yes, it is a part of a specific religion, but of the priest or the practitioner's specific religion. Like the Catholic priest, an exorcist could be a Catholic priest, an exorcist could be a Hindi, an exorcist could be, Central African culture. I'd have to name a few.
A rabbi.
Judaic, rabbinical exorcist. Yeah, they are a specific part, a part of that specific religion, but different religions.
Mm-hmm.
And she also asked, what would you consider to be an invitation?
So many things. It's tricky and it's not fair. Somebody being down and out in their luck, like the person who said that they love the book of Job. Job had every reason to curse God and die, as his wife admonished him to do. Job's wife said, curse God and die, because he was losing everything. When somebody is like just giving up, or they're doubting their faith, if they're a person of faith, and they're just feeling despondent, that's when they could give the invitation by saying, I don't care. I give up on everything. You know, that's it. I don't get. That doesn't sound like an invitation, but it is.
Right.
Especially if they start to feel darkness enshrouding them and penetrating them, and they give in to it. Say, let it take it. Let it do its worst. Life hasn't treated me so good, so life's throwing me a bum rap. So why don't I just give into this negativity? Let me spiral down, and, you know, maybe God will pull me out of it. That's an invitation. Or somebody that swears and takes the Lord's name in vain, which I do every time I drop something. Gravity makes me take the Lord's name in vain, you know. And I'm not that religious a person, but I try not to say those things. But when you do, or you say, you know, I just hate people, I give up, the human race isn't worth saving. All of those things constitute an invitation. Now, not everybody's going to suffer from saying those things, but some vulnerable individuals will, because they open that door and they say, I give up. Especially if they start to right away start feeling more negative. And that there's a comfort in that surrender and that abdicating of personal responsibility. You know, I give up on life. That's an invitation right there. Right. I'm not saying rationalism or atheism. I'm saying somebody surrendering to despondency, saying, I give up, I throw it all away. That's an invitation.
Yeah.
And then the demon could come.
Yes, Alita, it's definitely easy. People don't realize that. It's you could be as simple hearing a knock on your door, nothing being there, and you opening it.
Yeah. Even mental illness can be an invitation, and that's not fair. It's not fair that children should be attacked by these forces. But
right. I mean, wasn't I know this isn't her real name, but Emily Rose, wasn't she just 13? And like, didn't they kind of?
I think Annalise Mikel was a little bit older than 13, if I remember.
Oh, okay.
She was, when she started having a real malady, she was probably 17, 18, and 19 years old. It was setting in.
Yeah. And,
okay.
I don't know how old she was when she passed.
I think she was roughly around. I think she was early 20s when she passed.
22, I'm thinking, around that age.
But I do like this question. Do you know if the church funds research into the paranormal and angelic proof? Well, for one, they hate the paranormal. And they don't utilize that word in that sense, but they do actually do investigations of miracles. For one of the reasons that's how people are canonized as saints, because they do investigations of miracles. One show that I like to show people or tell people about is the show Evil. That was on CBS, and that is a little. Of course, it's over dramatized to the true factual things that occur, but it's pretty close to actually what occurs in the background. So Evil is based upon a show where there's a forensic psychologist, and then there's also a tech guy, and then there's a church demonologist who is in seminary, and they investigate claims of demonic possession, miracles, and other phenomenon that they, of course, are brought into. And they like what we do in the reality of it, we collect the data and we decipher the truths and the falsalities of that case. And then if there are truths to it, we present that to, of course, whoever we're going to bring in. If anybody, if we can't handle it, beyond consultation. And so that's what the show Evil is about. So yes, they do investigate claims. And I was just working on a case in Tennessee where I've got an exorcist priest out in Tennessee involved in the case, and they've taken over. And I've gotten medical records, and and this is a more recent case that I've dealt with where maybe not demonic, but maybe so. But yeah, this is a similar situation that I can talk about where I've had to do a lot of digging of the medical records and stuff like that. So yeah, there is investigations. Like a diocese won't get involved and perform an exorcism, especially nowadays, without validity, without proof.
Right.
Right. Rita's thinking that's a cool job to have.
And this might be piggybacking, or going back a little bit, but I was going to bring up that movie, The Reich, with Anthony Hopkins.
With Anthony
I
Hopkins.
showed you that movie.
Yes, I probably got to see that last year. Yeah.
Such a fantastic movie, Sir Anthony.
I love it. I love it.
My friend Sir Anthony Hopkins, who I was on a first name basis with for about 15 minutes here and there. Yeah, I worked in 2 movies. I used to do extra work. Well, I had a speaking part in one, and in 2 movies, I worked with Sir Anthony Hopkins. He was quite approachable. We actually conversed. We talked, not just hey, your autograph. I like your movies. No, we actually spoke with each other.
Hello, Carl.
Hello, Carl.
Well, he was talking about it's something
Hello,
like that.
Carl.
Well,
Hello, Carlise.
You see, my brother.
That was good.
I might back off then.
Hello, Carlise.
Imagine Anthony Hopkins, and if his breath was not good or something. No, I'm not saying it wasn't. Hello, colleagues. Because he can seem menacing, especially if he went.
Okay, so let me see something here. I love that.
Yeah, I worked with him, and my brother was the one who brought me up to him twice, and he said, "Oh yes, hello boys, yes," because we're identical twins. Yes, I remember you. Yes, he was talking about
and don't forget about Ghost Hunters. You were on Ghost Hunters. Everybody, I don't know if anybody knows that.
For 2 seasons, for 2 years,
yeah.
And I'm notorious for having left Ghost Hunters of my own accord, and. If I had it to do over again, I would have stayed with it probably for another season, but at the time there were reasons it was getting restrictive and all that. And I just walked away from it because I felt it would incite bad feelings if I resigned. So I just, stopped coming, and which made for worse feelings. Yeah, I would have done that a little different. I would have eventually left, but I would have stayed with it longer. But yeah, first season of Ghost Hunters.
What's your take on Lucifer? Is he evil like religion portrays him, or is he just another angel that makes sure humans get what they think they deserve?
I like that. That used to be Lucifer's job description. He was the report the delinquency of humans. Take on Lucifer, the evil. Well, it's all a matter of perspective. Lucifer was actually a Roman demigod. And he was not associated with the devil till later. And it's actually a misinterpretation in the biblical book of Isaiah, I think. But Lucifer, there were 2 interpretations. Lucifer ain't such a bad guy. You think about it. It's more, Lucifer became synonymous with Satan in the Middle Ages, really, around 1200 or so. And he was originally a Roman deity. You see, he brought in the day. That was his function. He brought in the day, and Venus welcomed the night. When you see the planet Venus in the sky in the morning, colloquially, like in the 1800s, that star was called Lucifer in the morning.
Oh, and then Lucifer morning star.
The same planet that looks like a star, that same planet is Venus at night. And the 2 can never meet because they're really the same. So Lucifer is more of a positive aspect of that diabolic entity. Luce, light in Latin. Fere, to carry. Fair, bear. Luciferi, the light bringer. And he ushers in the light. But he became synonymous with Satan, who's not the cool guy. Lucifer can appear as a beautiful angel, but Lucifer is deceptive. More attributes were given to Lucifer. So I always preferred the name Lucifer, but in the play by Christopher Marlowe, The Tragic History of Dr. Faustus, they say devil in the script. They say devil and they say Lucifer. The doctor who sells his soul for the appearance of youth and power. He says, "Cursed be the parent when his time is up." His 24 years. Dr. Faustus says, "Cursed be the parents that engendered thee. No, Faustus, curse thyself. Curse Lucifer, who hath deprived thee of the joys of heaven." So Lucifer was pretty sinister at that point, the time that play was written. And, so for about 500 years, Lucifer was the bad guy.
Yeah.
But originally not. And he was popular. Lucifer had a resurgence of popularity during the turn of the 20th century with the Order of the Golden Dawn. Lucifer was more like a symbol of power and the spirit of rebellion. You know, the spirit of emancipation was Lucifer. And I always kind of liked that. When I was practicing what you could call black magic, kind of thought of it as gray magic, but I was a Luciferian because I liked that better. More of a, it still was what it was, but it had more of a positive ring and a positive aspect to it. I could do a whole talk on Lucifer. I kind of like that. That name, Lucifer.
Lucy. That's what they call him on the show. See, I would automatically think like, but like, so Leviathan. Have you ever heard that name?
Yeah.
You're talking about my old friends here, Lucifer, Leviathan. You know,
I had a snake. I named him Leviathan.
ooh, I like creative. I like that. Hey, Levy, Leviathan.
He was a white albino California king snake, and he was named Leviathan.
Yeah.
Nice.
The book of Job mentions Leviathan is mentioned several times in the Old Testament, the Judeo-Christian Bible. Leviathan he's a titanic beast. He has scales. He's described as sometimes it sounds like a hippopotamus, sometimes it sounds like a crocodile, but he seems like a very real animal, and his scales glisten in the sun, and he's a beast from the sea. It is. And Leviathan, yeah, he's from the watery abyss.
Yeah, the Torah takes a lot of old Judaic folklore and kind of adds it a little bit. Yeah.
Now, I'll be honest with you. I always just thought there was just different names for Satan.
No,
you know what I mean? Like
no, it's kind of like it boils down to the same thing, be it Belial or
Beelzebub,
Leviathan, Shaitan.
I've heard Beelzebub, yeah, but I just thought that they were just other names.
No,
only in a very basic and collective sense, because in the sense of do not go there, this is evil,
right?
Like that. But they are really different aspects. They're different origins.
Are they puppets?
Well,
minions.
They would they would technically be, if you follow theology or angelology, they were fallen angels, the original hierarchy of.
You can interpret it that way. They're different fallen angels, but like Leviathan
was a creature. But,
I think in the most general sense, Leviathan was not Satan, but Leviathan was satanic.
Yeah. Diabolical.
Of the satanic realm, not somebody you'd like to cavort with.
I want to hit a part of question too, which is I love it. I love demonology history. Sir Walter Scott thought.
I can't read that.
Sir Walter Scott thought witchcraft being considered a part of demonology. What's your thoughts on this? Well, it would be witchcraft's looked upon differently, especially with Wicca and neo-paganism. But Heinrich Kramer, who wrote the book Hammer of Witches, it was one of the original demonology compendiums that was, I believe, 1467, 1497, around that late 1400s, which actually predates King James's Daemonolgie, which was written like 1590, 1597, late 1500s. And King James was a prolific witch hunter. So yes, they do in archaic demonology, they actually do bleed together. Of course, as demonologists in the modern sense, and of course be a theologian and studying theology, which is the study of religion, which means religion for everything. We do study witchcraft. We study multiple different religions and have a good understanding or a somewhat understanding of these other faiths and belief systems. So I think witchcraft being a part of the demonology is key, but that doesn't also mean witchcraft is evil or diabolical.
I so want to expound on this.
Or malignant.
I'm being I like that. I'm being very disciplined because you had a lot to say that was very cogent and very answered the question. But in the same way that an exorcist is a demonologist, of course, is not necessarily an exorcist, but an exorcist is always a demonologist. A Satanist isn't always a witch, but a witch is always a Satanist, traditionally in Christian theology, because they have given their soul over to black magic and infernal powers, and they're following those ways. So they have recanted their Christianity to become witch. And I'm not talking about modern Wicca or witchcraft. And again, Wicca is not always a witch.
No.
But, back then it was thought of in Sir Walter Scott's time. But we're talking about Renaissance. it was still, of course, highly illegal to be a witch and dabble in sorcery or practice sorcery. Dabbling, you could get in prison. Practicing, you get burned. But yeah, it was a satanic practice because they have to, at that time, make a pact with the devil for their witchcraft powers. And I'm talking again traditionally. That's how it was believed to be. That's what got many people executed.
And Megan said witchcraft is faith, not a religion. Actually, it's a craft. And which
or crafty religion,
which translated into like a belief in nature. But yeah, Wicca is the religion.
Yes, Christian theology, but not in reality. Not a ubiquitous, all-consuming, all-encompassing reality.
Like, also want to add to like witchcraft being a craft. Voodoo is a craft, and then Voodoo is the religion.
Gotcha. See,
yeah.
You can practice witchcraft, but that doesn't mean you'll be perfect at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would fuck some shit up.
Yeah.
I'm not going there.
A lot of it's intent, and a lot of witchcraft basically. Well, of course, witch means wise woman, right? Wise, and
Old English.
Yeah, actually. It's a lot to deal with herbalism, and of course, other like-minded things. And it really was never intently made in the sense for evil. But of course, when paganism became and craft became anti-Christian, that's when it was spun, unfortunately.
And then that's okay. And then that's what was looked upon as like a bad thing.
Yeah, like the Salem witch trials is prolific in the United States, but people tend to forget the European witch trials, which killed almost up to 1 million people.
That's true. It's around 1 million.
Was more significant. Like we had like 13 people that died in the United States of these trials, and then you had 1 billion people in Europe. A lot of people.
I think it was 19 that were officially executed.
Between Connecticut and Salem, right?
Yeah, only one was pressed.
Connecticut was actually the first place of witch trial, and then Salem came afterwards.
So it was starting to crop up there.
Wiccan, you got to remember, Wiccan is organized. They are Wiccan churches out there, so it really depends, I guess, who you're talking to. But it's like saying spiritualism's not a religion, but you have the spiritual churches of Lilydale, which are organized. So I guess that's how you look at it. But there are a lot of Wiccan churches out there. There are covenants that work together as well. And
why is covenant? Covenant always seems like such a bad word, like a bad thing.
Well, covenant's not bad. But
it does. Like I feel like, and this is Hollywood and this and that where covenant always like to me. I always when I hear it,
covenant, they're related, of course.
That what?
The covenant is a pact, an agreement, but it is derived from covenant. Covenant means bringing together, gathering, like a conclave. Covenant.
Why am I thinking that why would I think that was like a bad thing?
Well, when you say bad thing, to me, it just makes me nostalgic. When I hear you say the word coven, you talk about Leviathan and Lucifer. It brings me back to a happy time when I was practicing black magic. That was my rebellion. That was my expression of the time. I didn't know it would follow me for so many years afterwards. But I will say, though it's ill-advised, one could claim, but I think that was the last time I was consistently happy, a happy person, back when I was performing or practicing black magic. And it wasn't just because of that practice. It was the times. But I like that rebellion. I like that it was emancipation back then when I was a happy Satanist. But you can't say that without being clobbered somewhat, because if you're a Satanist,
everybody thinks it's so bad. I had somebody on my show that is a Satanist, and he explained everything, and I was like, wow, and that's the thing, people need to be educated about it.
I take it he took a positive stance on Satanism as a rational expression.
Right. Like he explained it, and I was like, okay, now I don't you know, I don't worship Satan, but I can understand his, I guess, religion about it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. I might
Role,
be using-
perhaps.
yeah, I understand it now, as opposed to just kind of, you know, ignoring it because I think it's bad. Like I don't think it's that bad anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's not. It's just.
It's a name, it's a title for that expression, Satanism. But in our culture, it has that ring to it because basically, inwardly, we're still Puritans. We still get that effect. We're still wearing a pilgrim hat on some level. If we're long established Americans. But to me, it's good memories. It reminds me of like the 1970s and the occult revival, and it's just something I was into at the time, and I had satellites around me. I had a following who was also into it because I was, and it was positive expression. We were not doing the things Satanists are supposed to do. We weren't throwing curses. We never sacrificed animals. Heck, some years ago I ran over a possum, and that was like 15 years ago. That haunted me for a month.
A month.
I said, if it weren't for me driving there, he would still be doing his possum thing. The possum.
It probably still would be haunting me. You're like a month.
Yeah. Squirrel, running over squirrel, that gets to me. That's awful. But I mean, I was always that way. I would rescue stray animals and try to find owners for them. And I stray animals and things. I was never into the diabolism of it. But if you take a strict interpretation, I was still buying my one-way ticket to the infernal regions. I was still headed toward hell from calling myself a Satanist by that rigid interpretation.
Right. Alita says, I thought priests, deacons, etc. wouldn't have known anything about other faiths, and I thought demonologists solely studied Christianity.
Well, once again, theology is the study of religion. So, in central aspect of a Catholic deacon or a Christian priest or pastor, then they might focus on Christianity. But as demonologists, we tend to focus on how many people we could deal with. And I might be Christian, and Carl might be whatever he is. Mixture.
I might be.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be knowledgeable in certain things. And I think that it's important to not be blind to what exists out there. Exactly. Like Christianity is only so old, while like Hinduism is the oldest modern day religion at 4,400 years old. So like, why are we going to be blind to the Hindi when that came forth? Or Zoroastrianism, which was the foundation of Judaism, the Israelites, and then of course Christianity. Why we're not going to look at the foundation of what created the trifecta, I like to call it, of modern day religions. So of the Abrahamic religions, I should say. But why aren't we going to look at that? We're blinded if we're not open to what has existed beforehand. So yes, you can focus on Christianity. But demonology also, of course, there's rabbinical demonology. Rabbis do study demonology. Muslim leaders study demonology. And there's Hindu demonology. It's expansive, but people want to centralize in Christianity because, once again, it is the largest religion out there by 2.2 billion people. And that's what people want to linger on. And, of course, we're in the Western culture. So most people in the Western culture are Christians.
And thank you, Rich Roselle, for your observation there.
Yeah, I meant coven. So I said covenant, but yes, same thing. But you can, in somewhere, make a.
That's a very accurate definition. Yeah.
But you can use the word covenant because it is an agreement. They come to an agreement, but it is coven. The political way of saying, I forget. We're in a political natured world nowadays. Coven.
So the cogency of his statement was the ancient Israelites. Yeah. That time, that purview, that culture.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Which was the foundation for Judaism and Christianity.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. We have the Son and the Holy Spirit was the hierarchy of saint. Well, I think Carl could probably go on that, but there is
do you have a 2-hour show tonight?
There is a hierarchy of hell, but it has changed so many times. At one point, it was connected to the sins.
Wait for the next edition.
Hamartology, which is the study of sin. But it has adapted and changed so many times. Do you know any of the hierarchies off the top of the head?
Well, it's analogous to the Christian Judaic hierarchy of angels, because you have the principalities, the thrones, the seraphim, the cherubim. Like with demonology, the satanic hierarchy. Oh, I don't know anymore how many things there are. I'd have to look it up. But I mean, there are names. There are the archfiend is Satan, and he has generals and lieutenant generals, and it's very militaristic.
Well, that's kind of like what I was saying, like with like the Leviathan and all that stuff. Like I was saying,
I refer more to names and what their ranks are, like Sargantanus and Fluteri, and they all are like lieutenant generals and field marshals, they're called. There is an echelon there. But as far as the actual categories, you would have devils and master demons and minions. You'd have down like that. And it very succinctly, it corresponds to the angelic hierarchy. You got these stronger devils or angels. You've got the ones under them and the ones under them. So it is with the demonic realm.
Yeah, well,
the minions are the ones that would go out and like tempt humans
and what as they state,
strip them up.
As they state, 1/3 of the heavenly host fell with Lucifer. So,
but we don't know how many that was. By the way,
well, I think
say 1/3 of the heavenly host rebelled and fell.
I thought there was like a number. I think there's like in the numbers in the millions. I think that there was, if I remember correctly.
One could guess.
But it's
I don't know.
It's a guesstimate. Yeah. It's a guesstimate because we really don't know how many angels and demons there actually are. There are books like Michelle Bellinger's Dictionary of Demons, and then there's Rosemary Ellen Guiley's Encyclopedia of Demonology. That have a good set point of the names and how many people have come across in modern, or of course archaic society as well, and it's been adapted through literature. But a lot of these names are of imagination, so they have to be used lightly.
Right.
You do a Google search for demonic hierarchy or a demon or system of demons.
You'll find it.
If you just look up demons, well, first of all, you'll get all the pictures, copyright-free pictures of demons and all that. But if you sift through that, you look up literature about demons. That'd be a good search. Literature on demons and devils. You'll find the various compendiums that list them. And I think, as James cited, an excellent work is that tome by Rosemary Ellen Guiley, the late Rosemary Ellen Guiley, the Encyclopedia of Demonology. And that's a lot packed in that, because it has a paragraph on each of those names we mentioned and others. And so that's a good start. I would, go, the works of John Zaffis and others are they're informative, they're case histories. But if you want a real compendium of the demonic hierarchy, look for that. Look for.
Yeah, well, she said about Satanism books. I don't know if that's the.
In looking into Satanism, okay.
Oh, Antoine LaVey,
yeah. Satanism. I mean, you will find so many different types of Satanism because there's so many different types of Satanists. It's not structured like the Church of Satan was intended to be. It never really was. But you're talking about, well, there's LaVeyan Satanism. Howard Stanton Levy, that his nom de plume was Anton Zandor LaVey, and he tried to incorporate humanism and rationality with Satanism. It's basically humanism with a slant on it. Look up Church of Satan and Churches of Satan. There are similarities there because they are inspired by LaVeyan Satanism, which came into its own in the years 1966, was established. But they eventually break away from the mother church or the mother coven, and they become other bands, other groups. So, but there's a lot about satanic groups out there. It's just there's so many different ones. They're not all organized. They're not. It's not a movement,
Right.
Satanism, except sporadic.
I might have asked you this before, but do you guys remember when Yale was going to do? I think it was Yale. There was a group of people that were going to. They called in a satanic. I don't know what to call it. A satanic group, certain people that were going to come in and do a satanic mass.
Yeah, I think that did happen, did it not?
Oh, like big inclusive satanic mass.
It was Yale, and remember the Pope actually was countering that mass. He called for all Christians and whatever to pray the entire time that mass was supposed to be going on, and was actually like saying that the dean of Yale should not do this. Like he was like strongly, he was like, this was like on the news, and I'm like, they made such a big stink about it, and they literally, it was supposed to happen I think at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was like,
I remember that. Yeah,
and it was like 2:55, and it was like called off.
It's crazy.
I think they should have let them go through with it. It would just peter out anyway. Let them have their fun. Nobody will remember it a day later.
Well, you got to remember too, which is funny about it, is that they wouldn't allow that to happen. But I forget what it might have even been Rhode Island, but there was a group session, because usually before they congregate, in politics there's usually a prayer set or whatever. And a lot of them, one of the groups, I think it was Rhode Island, but you can look it up, is they actually allowed somebody of the Flying Spaghetti Monster church, the Pastafarians they're called, and they allowed them to do an opening rite before they congregated.
Wait.
Yeah, there's a church called the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and they're called Pastafarians. Yeah, they exist. I ain't making it up. But if they allow that person to speak before their congregation, then why not them,
Wait.
Postulate,
Pastafarian, it's a true thing.
It sounds like Rastafarian. I kind of like that.
Pastafarian, the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Yeah, it's like something like out of H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe's Baby Childs.
How would you answer that, James? Is it true that there is only one sin that will keep you out of heaven? I would have a couple of answers. I would have 2 answers for that.
Well, I would say the only one that really keeps you out of heaven is eternal sin, which is from treachery of God. And that's something like Judas. He, of course, was treacherous towards, of course, Jesus, right? But, I would say treachery would be the only one sin that would be eternal sin. And anything else can be repented or redeemed. But of course, that's open to interpretation, I guess, for whoever you speak to.
If I had to give a personal answer to that, it would be the sin would be disbelief, because that keeps you from
worship Barilla.
So wait, I was going to say that. I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, so what do? They like San Giorgio or Barilla? Like, are they like? I mean, I worship pasta too. I could eat pasta like for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But I mean,
all are welcome at the table of Barilla. Yeah. I would say the universal sin would be disbelief, really. But in the Bible, the New Testament German is that the one sin that cannot be forgiven is blaspheming the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. But treachery is.
But that must be another interpretation. It doesn't seem very fair because people are going to say things.
Yeah.
I think more denying the Holy Spirit than blaspheming the Holy Spirit.
Blasphemous and being treacherous towards the Holy. It's the same context.
And some people say that the Bible gives a big misinterpretation of Judas because there was the apocryphal book of Judas.
Yeah, it's not canon, of course, but
I'd say disbelief. You think it'd be murder or something, or rape or something, but no, it doesn't seem to be able to keep you out of heaven.
Yeah,
there's Moses murdered.
He did. Yeah.
What about the great biblical patriarch Joshua? He was a killing machine. Is he in his army? If you take Scripture literally.
Well, Saint Michael is the patron saint of warriors. right? Like so, like like you're promoting death and destruction right there when you
And there's that nefarious angel of death that we read about.
Yes. Thanatos.
That's why I always like this name. You make me so nostalgic when you say Thanatos and Lucifer and all those. Ooh, just warms the cockles of my heart.
Right.
But yeah, seriously, like you're gonna look a Pastafarian, aren't you? After this,
I'm going to 1,000% look it up.
I'm not joking. Like I didn't make it up. Hey, in Australia,
I believe you.
I say this. I say this with most knowledge of it all. I want to go to Australia, but the Jedi Knight religion is the Jedi Knight is a religion in Australia. But
Jedi,
Jedi, like lightsabers. Yeah, it's an actual.
Jedi. Well, it's big. Jedi.
Yeah.
Is a distillation of all religions put into one
mostly
package.
Mostly Eastern.
Well, yeah, the philosophies and everything. And the Force is the basic,
principle. Yeah,
the basic good print, the creative force, the creative print. There's also the dark side of the Force. So you got the, God Satan dichotomy there. The dark side of the Force, and of course, in a very blatant and obvious way, Darth Vader is Satan, Lucifer. Because he started out as an angel of light, and he was seduced by the dark side of the Force and became the iconic.
And he's the chosen one. Yeah.
Well, the Emperor would be the more satanic. The Emperor is Satan.
He would be the head honcho.
Because there's no redeeming the Emperor. He's just too sad.
Tim Vickers asks, are blasphemy and disbelief the same thing or two distinct different things?
Well, you can be a blasphemer with disbelief. But if you disbelieve, you're not necessarily a blasphemer. How about that? Blasphemy is a blatant act of disrespect and disbelief.
So what about people that
disbelief? It could be loosely defined as blasphemy and it's going against God, but it's not a willful act of blasphemy. Blasphemy, it's connotation too. It's what comes to mind when you say the word. Like blasphemy, you think of actually going against God purposely, and that's why a priest of the Sanhedrin.
I look at that as treacherous.
When they hear blasphemy, traditionally a priest, when they heard blasphemy, they would have to rend their garment. They have to tear open their garment as a sign of horror at that blasphemy, and turn away from it.
Yeah.
So an atheist technically would be forgiven.
No.
Because that's disbelief, right? I mean, an atheist would
never ask for forgiveness for his or her sins.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not giving my personal opinion because it's the big dunno, D-U-N-N-O, big dunno for me.
It's debatable.
Yeah.
I remember that. Well, you guys need to. You can't ask if is disbelief forgivable. Like you got to look up hamartology and research the sins. Like me, treachery is the worst sin.
That's
like I have done enough research, and you can look it up yourself. Where treachery is the worst sin. What?
I know I can't.
I told you.
Thank you, Karen.
But it's all speculative. Like. One movie I like to relate to, and I know he likes to quote movies, is
all the time.
It's the movie with Seth Rogen and what is it called when they go
the Green Hornet
in the end.
The end of days or something.
Yeah, and James Franco's getting beamed up. I think it's James Franco. He's getting beamed up, and he's like, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you," and then he gets dropped back down again. And I just think of that all the time. I'm like, I love it because like he's going to heaven and he's being saved of the end of the days, and he's just like, "F you guys," and
like I'm going.
And then he gets dropped back down again. I love it. I love that movie.
Let me see something.
There's a very quotable movie.
It is very quotable. Just in that one.
Quotable quotes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you still perform exorcisms on houses? There's any more of just blessing the house if issues are going on. Sometimes the blessing doesn't seem to be enough, and more direct intervention is called for.
Yeah.
Where it would be exorcism. An exorcism is an extreme act.
Yeah. Well, minor rite of exorcism. Okay, like Carlos said, solemn rite of exorcism was just the Ritualis Romanus. but the minor rite of exorcism is done over a house that has a demonic infestation, where the infestation hasn't affected an individual yet, where oppression is starting to affect the individual, and then possession is the full total domination of the individual. So in an infestation, a minor rite of exorcism would be done, which is an intensified house blessing. So a minor rite of exorcism might be done on something that's non-demonic, but at most times it will be performed of a house blessing. Or if you really want to get technical into it, it might be a deliverance over the house, a deliverance of the house. But a deliverance could also be done on a person. So now where you bleed the lines, what is what? Basically, a lot of it is a difference in prayers, difference in rites of the wording, and how you approach it. But yeah, you could say either a minor rite of exorcism is done on a demonic infestation, while a deliverance can be done on something very intense and negative, and then a house blessing would be done on something like if you move in your house, there's negative mojo or negative emotion still in that house, you do a house blessing. But you could do a house blessing on a negative spirit too, so to say. They hypothetical, of course, but like anything, like we try to tell people, is if spirit does exist and they are of an individual that has their own free will, you cannot force a spirit out. They have to go on their own ability. You know, it's like I really, you know, I used to be this way, but I have disdain for people that feel like they can push people out. And sometimes they can, of course, because mostly the spirit will be like, oh, how many times is this person going to keep doing the blessing over and over again? And they get annoyed and they leave. But that's kind of like pushing them out, but it's not a one and done deal unless that spirit is wanting to go. And people have to understand that if spirits do exist in the way we think, you know.
Someone asked where, when did demonology really begin?
Yeah,
I think.
Where did I go? I took it off because somebody said hi, and
I know. Wow.
Go ahead.
I would say the date, for some reason, the date 1594 comes to me. What was
1597 was David.
You sure it was David?
I think so.
97? It might have been 97.
No, let's say 1590s.
Yeah. But it depends. Now, when did demonologists start? There were demonologists before there was demonology. This sounds like a contradiction in terms, but you got St. Thomas Aquinas's writings and the clerics whose names don't come to mind right now, who categorized demons and gave a roster of demons. They were demonologists, but there wasn't a baseline of demonology.
Yeah, like Heinrich Kramer, like I said earlier. There was a physician that was a Dutch physician. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but there was a Dutch physician that was a demonologist.
So in that sense, as far as people who wrote about it and published about it, that goes back to with the true Middle Ages. You know, we're talking about circa 1100,
probably
1200. You know, the 12th and 13th centuries. It had its stirrings then. So in that sense, if people were writing about demons, then there was demonology, but it was in pockets. It wasn't all organized. And I'm sure the great church, Mother Church, had their own demonologists. So a very strict interpretation would be like going back to the 12th century.
Yeah, but like you said, the technical term came around the 1590s with the wording of Daemonolgie by King James, which is what we use in parlance. You know,
so I would say like the 1590s. You say 1597, probably.
It's between any. It's definitely not before the 90s or 1590s.
It was during the late Renaissance.
Yeah, and
high late Renaissance.
And two, what people don't understand about the book Daemonolgie, and this is true, of course. The one thing about Daemonolgie, which is fascinating about that writing by King James, is that it inspired William Shakespeare or the personage of William Shakespeare, depending on who you talk to. I guess that's the big to know as well in history. It actually inspired him to write Macbeth. And
are you a Marlovian? Do you know what a Marlovian is? I'm beginning to think of you as a Marlovian.
Oh yeah.
No, there's a cachet of people, of scholars who think that literary scholars that think Actually, William Shakespeare was Christopher Marlowe, and they're Marloweans.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, see, with like history, like,
I don't.
well, the problem with history is like, everybody looks at history as cold hard fact, but there is a lot of historical perspective or bias in our history, especially Western culture and other cultures, and how we perceive it as historians. So history can be fact in some sense, but a lot of it is biased. And people probably like want to correct me again, but it's true. History is a bias, especially unless it's from a primary source, which is a first-hand perspective of it. But then in that same realm, a lot of history is of secondary sources, and what has been told and passed down and muffled as well.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah, Malleus
Maleficarum,
which
all
is
the rage.
but which is the Witches of Hammer, and that was 14.
Yep.
That was the 1490. So, but the Hammer of Witches is the our tongue way of saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I mean, that's even like with the Bible and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You got to think it's like been stories just told down and told down and told down. And
Well, some people think it is the totem of God, and people like born again Christians and other faiths of Christianity think it is the totem. It is the tome. It was written by God, even though in reality God didn't transcribe it. People did, and
Right.
we just have to have we have to believe in the ethical nature of why it was written. But of course, if you look at history in our current perspective, then there are a lot of holes in biblical scripture to history of what lines up. Dates are misplaced or a little bit out of the stretch. But of course, that's how much you kind of go into that rabbit hole. The Bible, to me, and people might not like me for this, but the Bible to me is a great tome of how you should be and what you should not do.
I say it's basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Well, see, even the New Testament, people get the New Testament wrong. Everybody thinks it's a manual, but it's not a manual. It's how you should live.
I thought it was a manual.
No, it's not a manual.
It's a manual.
It's not a manual.
That's Jesus, Emmanuel.
But
Saint Emmanuel.
I know it.
I get it.
I'm being silly. I'm being
Emmanuel. Yeah.
I'm obtrusifying the conversation.
But some people would say it's a manual, but like I said, it's not. I don't want to repeat myself, but there's a difference when you dig deep into it and you understand it. And there are going to be theologians who are so transfixed by the Bible. But even St. Thomas Aquinas, which you said earlier, he wrote one of the most prolific works probably none of these people ever read in the chat room, and I don't say that meanly, but he wrote the book called the Summa. And it's a prolific book that I ask everybody that's of faith to read it, especially if they have doubts in God. Because
Really?
it's like a question and answer of God. The question is, why would God exist? And it's a huge tome. It's a huge book.
I'll never get through it.
And it basically has an answer for every response to the question that's governed why God is possible. And St. Thomas Aquinas created scholasticism. And of course, it's not really used nowadays in modern Catholicism, but it really, really brilliant man and brilliant work, the Summa.
Emmanuel or Emmanuel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got. Or Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Depending on the hymnal too. In some hymnals, it's come Emmanuel or come Emmanuel. Yeah.
The Adam.
I fell asleep during that movie, but it was good from what I watched.
Oh shoot! I wish we could relive history so we could see how true. Yeah, time travel education is what future people. Yeah, maybe.
I think to be honest, if we had time travel and we went back and seen every step of the way, I think it would just totally demoralize humanity, and I think it would blow a lot of things out of the water, unfortunately, and I don't think that's what we need, especially in a society nowadays.
Wouldn't it be nice to time? You'd have to be very careful with time travel. You know that paradox about, well, there's the grandfather paradox for one thing. Somebody goes back in time and they intentionally or inadvertently kill their own grandfather, then they don't exist.
Yeah, right.
Except in a parallel time, they might, there might be, parallel timelines. But essentially, that person would cease to exist. Also, if you had a time machine, if you just experiment, okay, I've got my time machine perfected, I just haven't tried it yet. You go back, let's start out modestly. Let's go back in time 5 seconds. If you do that, well, this world is traveling at quite a velocity around the sun. If you just propel yourself 5 seconds into the future, suddenly you're in outer space and you're frozen or crushed or something.
Yeah. And Laura said, I'm sure demonology has gone back before the 1400s, but yeah, the word demonology does not go back before the 1400s. But like, if you look at ancient Egyptian culture, like their mythology, which really was kind of like the birthplace of spiritualism in some form or fashion.
Right.
Then yes, you can say it is so, but it wouldn't have been used in that context. Demon, the word in that context was formulated in Greek mythology with the word daemon, D-A-I-M-O-N.
Yeah, it all depends on your interpretation. The specific question you're asking about demonology, which origin? I'm sure there were like the culture, the pre-culture that we call Cro-Magnon, which was essentially modern Homo sapiens sapiens. I'm sure they had their wise men and wise women, their witch doctors, whose job it was to cavort with spirits, to enter the spirit realm and ward away evil or tell the future. They're wise people.
Yeah. Overseers, which basically
was who knew about and interpreted to the others in the tribe,
gods,
interpreted the gods and the spirits and the bad spirits, the demons, though they would not have called them as such. Perhaps they were the first demonologists.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's why she said many just didn't understand or document what they experienced. And
Right. Yeah, they didn't understand or document it, didn't write it down.
Yeah.
Evil has always been here because humans have always been here.
And then Tim Vickers' question about God being an alien.
Yes.
I think is interesting because we always, as individuals, humans, Homo sapiens sapien, right? Wise.
We've given ourselves that title. We are not just we are not Homo sapiens Neanderthalensis. We are Homo sapiens sapiens. We are man wise. We are two wild and duo crazy guys.
So God is not an alien. So see, the thing about aliens and the idea of it really started happening in science fiction with H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, the kind of the forefathers of science fiction.
I like that you gesture to me when you say H.P. Lovecraft.
But our understanding of aliens is warped by literature and, of course, entertainment and science fiction. We don't understand what an alien is, how it would exist beyond this plane of existence. But to interpret God as an alien would be so simplistic to what theology is. Like I said, study of religion, but it also is the study of God. And God is everything, omnipotent, omnipresent, and so much more. And to call God an alien, which I have this issue as well sometimes, but sometimes calling God he or she is misunderstood too. God is not a he, God is not a she, and it was never meant to be interpreted as such. But because we are humans,
we always get back to that cycle
of
giving God humanistic attributes. He is like us, but much greater. He has emotions like unto us, but much greater. And they always give him a wife or a female counterpart after a time.
And alien relates to us by
not Hollywood.
Relate to us on Earth. Well, God created Earth, and God was here before Earth and the universe, as stated, of course, in biblical scriptures. But so I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. It's a weird question, really, so to say.
I don't know. It opens to speculation.
It does. It's speculative.
Was Yahweh an alien? And I say was in the past tense. Was Yahweh an alien? Yahweh derived from the tetragrammaton, the sacred mystical name of God, and Kabbalistic name of mysticism. Yahweh was the original God, name of God, and it comes from the abbreviation, which is Yad He Vo He. And so it is forbidden to know the actual name of God. And the closest we can get is Yad He Vo He, which is I am, the El Shaddai, I am. And that's all God identifies himself to Moses as.
Yeah.
I am.
And as God of earth, I would think God is of everything, and what it's spoken about. And I see Charlie McBride saying theology is the critical study of divine, while the true definition is it's the study of religion and God. But in my experience, most of the theologians lack the ability to be critical. It is often meant to fit their view. Not necessarily nowadays. Maybe that's your perspective, but I think theologians are very open.
In a more academic sense.
Yes, I think they also, people don't realize they actually have adapted neurotheology, which is how theology incorporates
That's a
the
new
brain.
one, neurotheology.
And you got to remember, if you really want to get in a psychological sense, like the neurology as well, the limbic system has why the limbic system is there. There's a piece of it that has faith related to it. And why is there faith? What's the key to it? What's the importance of it? And we still try to understand this to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that there's an uptick in spirit activity in correlation to current events?
I want to answer another question, but I really got to get off.
Okay.
Because I have homework to do. Like I am a student of psychology, not just a guy that rambles on. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
But I definitely got to get some schoolwork because we're going away this Friday, and I don't have much time to do my work this week for my school.
I say there's an uptake in spirit activity because of the current events, because there are more people, more emotions, more chaotic emotions.
Yeah, people are fucking crazy anymore.
Yeah, the world's being shaken. Yeah, so there is. I think it's makes a portal, and more is coming through. It sounds very metaphysical, but I think it's actually a sound reasoning. The more
so if any
vibration.
If anybody has any questions, that I didn't get to, I think I got to mostly all of them, to be honest with you. Where can they find you guys at?
Well, you can always find us on Facebook. That's the default method of finding us. We have a website, Duo Daemonolgie. The handle is actually James got the domain of Daemonolgie, spelled the modern way, daemonolgie.org. Look for us there. Do a search through through Facebook. I have a Find You book, and Find You, and
I like how you I hear it in your the way you say it. You either say demonology or you say daemonology.
Daemonologie. That would be Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft preferred daemons, and he didn't say daemonology, but he preferred the daemons.
Don't you say it like that, or is it your accent?
Daemonology is the way you say it.
Yeah,
right?
It would be daemonology,
which was the King James parlance, but it is demonology in
nowadays. Demonology. Find us through Facebook. I mean, I'm also a co-member of Panorama Paranormal with Elise Gianmarco Carlson. Look up Panorama Paranormal, Duo Daemonolgie. We're not that hard to find. We were both recently on episodes of A Haunting on the Travel Channel and Discovery Plus.
And really quick, what we didn't get to talk about is James going to Romania.
Yeah, in November.
November.
But we'll be on next month, hopefully, and we'll talk about Romania.
Yes. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on.
And I will take that, Sharon Phillips. If you want to do my psychology homework, no, I really appreciate it, but I'm an A student, and I don't want to affect my A grades.
Well, yeah, and actually, these guys will be on my paranormal anniversary party on Friday.
Yes.
So Anyway, for a couple minutes.
Bring cake.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
guys.
I love you.
Love
I'll
you
see you.
too. Bye, Tara.
Bye, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining me this week. I appreciate it so much. They're awesome. I will have them on anytime. I mean, even if it doesn't have to be, even if it's not a Wednesday, I will have them on again soon. I do like to do monthlies with them because, as you can see, there's so much to talk about. But really quick, next week, well, Friday is my party, my paranormal podcast. Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Friday is my paranormal, my 5-year anniversary. So I'm having a party on here to celebrate. And then next week I have Jay Hill coming on. If you don't know him, he's the host of Studio 6 Paranormal. I will have him on. He's a fantastic human being. I love him. He's just so great. Go check out his Studio 6 Paranormal is his podcast. And I'm really I know 5 years, right? It's crazy. So make sure you tune in Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I have reached out to almost all of my former guests, and almost all of them said that they are going to pop in. Here's my list. All the check marks. They're all like, so I don't know how this is going to happen or what's going to go on, but we'll make it work. But thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Right after me, I don't know what time it is, but Chris DeCesare, his show, I think, is already on. Go check him out as well. Love you guys, and I will see you Friday and then next Wednesday. Friday's 9 p.m. Eastern time. Yes, yes, for sure. 3 hours. I know. It really is going to be a long show because so many people are coming on. So, and it's only like a 5 to 10 minute, whatever anybody can do. They're doing. Some people are busy because they're filming for their TV shows and stuff like that. So they were kind enough to say they would give me a video. But if people don't come on that said they would, and I don't get videos that said I would, I am 100% okay with it. I appreciate everything that everybody has done for me over the last 5 years. So, with that being said, I am going to go eat dinner. I haven't eaten all day. And please join me Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Bring your drinks, bring your popcorn, and hopefully I can have 10 people on at a time. So we'll just see what happens. We're just going to go with it. Thank you, Alita. You always say that. You always make me feel so good. I love you. For everybody, Jing, thank you so much. I love you. Love you, love you. Charlie, thank you for coming in. You are amazing too. Charlie is also on BB3 TV and Paranormal Brew Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So Charlie's amazing. She's a medium, shaman, all that stuff. So thank you so much for joining us, Charlie. I know you're very, 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 very busy. So have a good night, and I will see you guys soon.